It is Friday, the 10th of July, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory board. So, this week we have walked through the advisory board operating system, the image that we have on the screen, in order and this is for founders, board, and executive team that should think things slightly different than the next problem that they have in front of them. Because the problem that you have in front of you has the root cause somewhere else, somewhere in this model. And this is something that has been studied and provided for many companies throughout the years, but always in the large organizations, all these portions are disconnected between each other. So you see all these meetings where they do strategic meetings on quarterly basis, a half year, next year, etc. And everybody's trying to push to their own direction for the budget, a piece of the budget, a piece of relevancy in terms of the importance, of how important they are in the organization. And what it creates is a dynamic of problems that actually slow everything down. So an advisory board can bring this bigger picture to any organization and say, we can work together to make this better. So a quick recap from what happened this week. On Monday, we talked about the overall model. Tuesday, we spoke about commercial acceleration, what makes your business much faster in terms of the organization, in terms of commercial, your people, your performances, your revenues, and your brand, how important it is, and your capacities to deliver to the market. On Wednesday, also, we talk about that predictability. And Thursday, yesterday, we talked about the system, the governance, risk, compliance, and also the resilience of the organization. Resilience usually is a joker card for many organizations to talk about resilience, but perhaps they don't understand actually have three distinct pillars and how these pillars work across the organization. Today, we're going to do a full conclusion, and mostly we're going to talk about the edge, the transformation, the innovation, what is coming next for your organization, what it makes it relevant for the future. So, in plain English, the edge asks, where will this business win next, right? So, and what must change now? So we are not defending an aged model or something actually the past glory. So what makes our company relevant for today's market, next year, and the next 5 years? This is probably the hardest reality for any business. A business can be stable and still become irrelevant to the market, right? And I don't know if you remember the story that I did in May this year. I shared to everybody 40 companies in the East Coast of the US, companies that have, some of them, more than 100 years in the market, in their local communities. And for the past, this is the fourth, fifth generations, for the past 20, 25 years, they're very proud to say, we are a $10 million company, and we are proud to continue being a 10 million company. But one of the questions that we ask is, just looking from the currency, the depreciation, your company 25 years ago, 10 millions, today actually is 5 millions. So it should be in the ratio of the 16 to 17 millions revenue just to stay on the same capacity of revenue that they were 20, 25 years ago. And that was a kind of a shock. And that's why I'm talking about relevancy to your market, because you see it's a kind of decline in terms of volume, capacity, etc., and what the products they are producing to the market. So yeah, it is an achievement itself. But if you start to look from different eyes, different perceptions of the company, you start to see that it's a decline, and probably is not going to continue many years in the future. So it can give you a strong branding, but still trapped in yesterday's story. So you have to be careful how you're praised or how you're proud of, and your legacy. And if you preserve it, if you want to preserve it and make it bigger and lasting in time, you will have to look into things differently. So your company can have a forecast, a system, controls, but still miss the next shift in the market. So let's take a look at three problems with this. Problem number one is waiting for certainty. And this is coming from these studies that I did back in May. So leaders often wait until the future feels safe before making the decisions. But by the time the evidence is obvious, the best timing may already have passed. So waiting can look prudent while quietly becoming too late for your organization. Problem number 2 is treating transformation like a side project. Here's the problem: the technology project here, a market project there, a cultural project somewhere else, a few pilots in between, and more dashboards. But at the end, updates are not clear valued thesis, no clear owners, no clear decision line or date, or the budget start to extinguish, and then the project is another one in the drawer. Problem number 3 is a strategy with no edge. An edge, I mean, what makes you relevant, what makes you apart, what is the inch apart from the rest of the market, your competitors, and their perception of your organizations. Many leaders use boards phrases like innovation, digital growth, AI, resilience, customer focus, and market leadership, etc. But they cannot name the one capability, the one offer, the one asset, or the one position that makes the business harder to beat, right? So don't go for the nice words and the nice projects. Start to think what is really this make relevant our organization, the market, with customers, with suppliers, in order to go and make that inch that makes us different from anybody else. So in other words, you can imagine this reinvention like a changing lanes on a fast motorway. Yeah. So if you leave it too late, and the gap closes with the people that are coming from behind you, so it's kind of a bit of a danger. So you have to wait. So if you move without a signal, right? So you're not indicating, you can cause a crash, because actually you're moving and people doesn't know where you're moving. So it's kind of difficult to understand where you're going, what you're doing. So the job is to see the move earlier and make it clean, right? So, and don't worry about it. People will know what we do, so we're going to lose our competitive advantage. That is your IP, your assets, how you do things that makes your company a premium, a differentiator from the rest of the market. Is if you do it right, all these indications, all these movements, etc., it won't give you a disadvantage. The other way around, it gives you an advantage, and that's when you start to be perceived as a market leader, right? Now, as a board advisor, what I would propose to consider is the following. First, define your edge in plain English. What does the business do? What does the business know, own, or reach that others will struggle to copy quickly from you? Yeah, well, copycatting and market, these kind of things happen. So, but the thing is actually how make anybody else harder to do the things that you do. There might be customer trust, and I say, well, yeah, but actually might be the same product, but why they buy from you but not from everybody else? Because you build the trust in the customer, your brand, your delivery, your certainty in terms of your business, your predictability, etc. That is very hard to copy. Not many companies can do. They can provide the same pen, they can provide the same marker, but actually, why I'm buying from this brand and not the other brand? Could be the route to market. So how you access the market in a way that actually others can't. I think that you get the picture. Regulatory advantage, specialist knowledge, data, assets, partnerships model, or protected methods, you name it. So if the board cannot describe the edge of your organization in very simple terms, it will struggle to find the funding to do it properly. The second thing is choose one reinvention bet at a time. Don't do 300 things at the same time, because it's very hard to manage, very hard to follow. Too many companies do too much at the same time. They start a platform project, and then AI project, a market entry project, and a culture project all at once. Then they call the confusion transformation, the growing pains. And I can assure you it's more pain than growth, because at the end of the balance sheet of the year or the fiscal year, you start to realize there was a lot of friction or movement, but no real value added. So the better leadership chooses the bet that changes value creation most. So you go for the value creation first, and then organize capabilities around it. And the third thing is keep resilience and reinvention in the same frame. Now, the point is not to choose between safety and change. The point is to build enough discipline so the company does both well, right? So resilience, if we want to understand resilience, how we structure and how the elements of resilience, look into yesterday video, because I actually explained very well what is resilience, which is not just a buzzword. It has a meaning, it has a purpose, and has a methodology. So if you want to go for resilience and reinvention as the same frames, meaning at the same time, meaning that you make a stronger organization while you go to the market with a relevancy and making more stronger your offering, you have to have three elements. And I spoke about this very specifically yesterday. So let's recap the week. On top, we have scale, which gives you the business lift, the commercial acceleration. On the right, we have the predictability, we give the trusted instruments reading, meaning the dashboard, the revenues, the assets, etc. On the bottom, we have the system, which is what keeps the machine safe, the governance, the risk, the compliance, right? So this is not to slow down the company, it's to accelerate the future activities with a very well controlled environment and system, right? So if you're driving a car, like the example of the motorway, if your dashboard, your fuel gauge, your speedometer, your RPMs, you name it, if your dashboard is not working well, how you trust that you're at the right speed, you're changing lines correctly, you have the levels of fluids correctly, so your engine can stand all the process that you go through in the motorways, etc. So that is very important, and that allows you to go to your transformation, your innovation. So where you're going next and how you're going to get there. So means one on the journey, and you get and the travel or the journey gets rough very fast, right? So it's uncertainty, it's unpredictability, it's a lot of doubt. So you're playing safe instead of going where you could go faster, etc., etc. This is why the advisory board must be designed around the milestone in front of your company, not just just for the sake of it. So you need to specialist people for your brand, your people and partnerships experience when you're going into your scaling process, when your commercial acceleration, when you're going into your predictability, you need people that are experts in pricing, forecasting, capital experience. And the same with you're going to governance risk compliance. Also now is very, very important, your cybersecurity, controls, operation, resilience, as we mentioned. And when you're going into transformation, your edge, your innovation, you need people that specialize in these technology products or market expertise. So the point, I think, is very simple. The capability should follow the work, right? So if you are focusing in any of these quadrants of the model, you have to have the experts in those areas. It's very hard to do if you hire one person, or you keep that group thinking with static management that have been in the company for many years. They've done a brilliant job so far, but they need something that coming from outside in to see how we can do better. So what do you gain working with me? Three things: business outcomes, differentiators, and risk reductions. The outcome is a board operating rhythm that helps the company scale with discipline, forecast with trust, withstand shocks with confidence, and adapt with speed. The differentiator is a rotating international advisory board. It is built around the company next milestones, as we mentioned, not around the static list of names. You get the specialist capability faster than hiring one executive with a lower overhead than a consulting firm, and no talent lock team, because we can swap members every 6 months. And the risk reduction is delay, the mismatch and false confidence, as we mentioned earlier. Wrong hire, slow hire, static board, generic advice. This model reduces those traps because members can rotate as work evolves. Now, let me show you this. I want to share with this something, as usual, our little visual aid of a 30-minute exercise that you can take home today, and it's doable, as mentioned, 30 minutes or less. This is a jumpstart model for your advisory board. Take the 4 headings from this week: the scale, the predictability systems, and the edge. So you can put it on this grid and score your pieces from 1 to 5 on each one of these sections: scaling, predictability system, and edge. This small description underneath. Then write one missing capability on each of these sections. What is a capability you're looking for that you think that is missing because you're scoring from the 1 to 5? So the 1 being the most risky or the lowest scoring, and 5 when you say we're brilliant in this area, we don't need anybody else. So that is your advisory board jumpstart, because then you start to understand where in these areas you have the weakest point and where you can start a very meaningful conversation toward business outcomes rather than guessing what to do or have a nice chat every month or every quarter with your advisory boards. Here is a very, very specific theme that you can start to put in the agenda and say, we need to talk about this, how we look, the advisory board looks into this, or which members we need to address this situation. Now, let's pause it here for today and reconvene next week, because next week we can go deeper into how to turn these milestones into advisory board agendas, scorecards, and meeting rhythms that lead to action and not more noise, as you may, or like a nice chat. So if you're a founder, a non-executive director, executive team, and you want an international advisory board built around the milestones in front of your company, let's have a 30-minute chat so I can understand where you're coming from, where you are today, where you're looking for to go, so we can design an advisory board that brings you 24% revenue increases and 18% more productivity, with a faster implementation like hiring one executive, with a lower overhead than a big consulting firm, no talent locked in, and swappable members every 6 months. Have a great rest of the day, a wonderful weekend, and we catch up on Monday again. Thank you, and bye-bye.